everyone. Welcome to America Unhinged. God, that name is so apt today. I'm
Woo!
Fiorentini.
And I'm Wajahat, and this is a show that tracks the first 100 days of the Trump administration.
Yes, already worse than the first 100 days.
And only 10 days in, Francesca.
Only 10 days in, we've got so much to cover. We're going to obviously be talking about the fallout from the biggest aviation disaster in 2 decades, and all of the wrong people that Trump and the MAGA movement and pundits alike are blaming. There is an actual culprit. We're also going to talk about the RFK Jr. hearings, as well as the Tulsi Gabbard hearings and the Kash Patel hearings. Mehdi Hasan's going to join us later to talk all about that. And then finally, Waj, we're doing sort of a media bends the knee segment as an outro. We'll think of a good name for that one, but it's happened way too often.
And we'll leave you with some good news. But first, folks, everyone who's watching, please, please, please like, subscribe, share, be a super chatter, give us donations. The elves in the YouTube algorithms love it when you like and subscribe. So if you're watching for the first time, thank you. Welcome. Join us, like, subscribe, share. And also, if you click the bell, each time we go live, you will be notified. So click that bell as well. But first, as Francesca said, we're going to start with the breaking news. It just happened in my backyard at DCA. Tragic news. Late last night, we found out that a Black Hawk helicopter collided with a commercial American Airlines flight and crashed in the Potomac River. Unfortunately, right now, there are no survivors. For the American Airlines flight, there were 60 passengers, folks, 4 crew members. We just found out today that 14 of those passengers were part of the U.S. figure skating team. My son just found out today, we got an email in the county school district that there were 3 kids who were on that plane who died and perished in our county school system, 6 parents,
Oh my God.
2 of whom are staffers at my kid's school. So this hits close to home. And when you hear something like this, if you're a human being who is not a psychopath, who has some semblance of decency, kindness, empathy, you pray. If you're not a praying person, you said good wishes. There's a solemnness there. But unfortunately, we're living in a time where Donald Trump is our president, and investigations are still underway. We still don't know what caused this, but don't let facts and evidence get in the way of blaming your enemies and engaging in Festivus. This is what Donald Trump said at the press conference that was held earlier today, folks. Give this a listen.
They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website.
Well, you hear that, Francesca? DEI.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yep. Hours after 68 people lost their lives, their loved ones, they still haven't been even rescued from the Potomac River. And Donald Trump is blaming DEI. Now, here's the real issue. There were problems with the FAA when this crash occurred. In fact, and this is according to the New York Times, the control tower staffing that oversaw the Ronald Reagan Airport airspace was, quote, not normal during the deadly crash. That's from the FAA's internal report. In fact, the controller on duty the night of the accident last night was doing a job usually handled by 2 people. So you're doing the job of 2 people as an air traffic controller, which is insane. Now, why would that be? It's important to know that Trump, even in the week that he has been president, has everything to do with this. Number one, Waj, do you know there is no current head of the FAA? That's
Sadly,
right.
I do know this, and this is what fuels my nightmares.
So there is no head of the FAA right now. His name was or is Michael Whitaker. He resigned in advent of Donald Trump's ascension back to the throne because he and Elon Musk were getting into spats over many years over, of course, Elon's stupid rockets. So that's why he resigned. Now that role
and the rocket, which, by the way, I always have to remind people, exploded last week.
Right. So that's the FAA. But since in office, Trump himself put a hiring freeze on air traffic controllers. So even if they needed to staff up, they couldn't have staffed up. Now, we don't know exactly if it was in relation to this, but there's other clues. Trump also fired the entire Aviation Security Advisory Committee, people. This is in a week. And there's also no current head of TSA. So transportation security, gone. There's also a number of vacant positions right now at the FAA. Again, deputy administrator, associate administrator, airports, chief counsel, on and on and on and on. This is what happens when you want to demolish the administrative state. Aircraft safety goes completely out the window. And yet he has the gall to say it is DEI. And this was CNN's aviation expert just reacting to Trump's, honestly, and he calls it unhinged press conference.
This is something that has been pushed by the far right for a few months now, that DEI policies are to blame in a degradation of safety in aviation in the United States. But frankly, the president is getting out ahead of his skis here. What he has said is not only unprofessional, unpresidential, inconsiderate of the status of this investigation, but frankly, it is just unhinged.
His words, he said unhinged, and that's the name of our show, America Unhinged.
Hey.
That is an aviation expert. It's not just me and Francesca, folks. And speaking about the unhinged manner with which Trump has responded today, he had a moment yesterday when, like I said at the beginning of the show, when you hear something like this, when I read about it, you sit there and you just go, my God. And it's so close to home, folks. It's right down the street. These people worked at my kid's school. 14 figure skaters, the future of U.S. figure skating, they said was on this plane, right? The 3 passengers on that Black Hawk helicopter, right? So many lives. And this is how Donald Trump last night, I don't know if you saw his post on Truth Social. Check it out on the right-hand side. Folks, his initial response
was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It's a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do? Maybe because you froze all air traffic controller hirings.
But look at the end. Look at the end. All caps. Can you read that?
Not good.
Yeah, not good, folks. Not good situation. And in the press conference today, where he blamed DEI, Donald Trump said, and I want to quote him, he will restore our faith in America's air travel by ensuring that air traffic controllers, the ones that can't get to work because he freezed hiring, are, quote, naturally talented geniuses. And he was flanked by Francesca, our new head of transportation, not Pete Buttigieg, but Sean Duffy. And if you're an old head like me, you recall Sean Duffy because he was in the cast of The Real World, where he married, and then later he married another Real World cast member, Rachel Campos. And I think they have like 14 kids now, or maybe 15.
Right.
Oh, can we get a fact check? They got a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
But he's the new transportation guy. And the other person who was there was, wait for it, a natural genius, Pete Hegseth, our new Secretary of Defense. Yet that same Pete Hegseth, who was a Fox host for about 10 years and whose own mother called him a sexual abuser, and who has paid a woman about $50,000. She signed an NDA. She can't speak out about the alleged sexual abuse. He is an officer 4 rank. And just so you know, that the last Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, a black man, had to be a 4-star general.
Yes.
Just so Pete Hegseth could be an alcoholic, allegedly, and abuse women, allegedly, and become the Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth then took the mic and said the following, quote, the era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need, he said this shit with a straight face, folks, quote, we need the best and brightest, whether it's in our air traffic control or whether it's in our generals or whether it's throughout government, end quote.
You need people, period. And you can't do that when you put a hiring freeze on the FAA. And, oh, by the way, you sent a mass email that basically cribbed off of Elon Musk's work when he fired all the Twitter employees that said, hey guys, if you're a federal employee, you should probably resign right now. Indiscriminate, doesn't matter where you work, doesn't matter if you're in aviation safety. Why don't you just take a load off for the next 8 months? You'll get paid. And, we'll put the best and brightest little hamster that just sort of, like they know when a crash is going to happen. Hamsters are very astute at knowing when a crash is going to happen and when the helicopter should go up or down or swerve. It is beyond, it's beyond comprehension, Waj, like how disgraceful this response is.
That's right.
How disgusting it is, how terrifying it is for not just the people who were on that plane, but for their loved ones and for all of us who, God, millions of Americans went on planes today. How do we know that our government actually is making sure that we're safe?
I use DCA Airport all the time. All right. That's an airport that I use. It's 15 minutes away from my home. And like I said before, I just found out once my kids came home that apparently it was a 1 degree of separation, right? But next day it could be your family. It could be your staffers who work at your kid's school. It could be your kids, right? God forbid. Yep. And I want to go back to this image that Francesca, you played. This is happening under Donald Trump's presidency. The firings, the freezes. Look at the vacant FAA positions. Look at the first one on the top left column. What does that say, Francesca?
Oh, chief? But that was...
Chief of the FAA, folks. Who needs a chief of the FAA? Listen. Okay, let me be generous. Suppose he wants to clean house. Suppose he wants to truly bring in the geniuses to staff the FAA and TSA and Coast Guard. Fine. You know what I would have done? And who am I but a middle-aged man who drives a minivan? I would have these brilliant men and women lined up, and as soon as I fired or pushed out the FAA chief, I would replace him right there and then, because it seems like an important job. If I would fire the TSA head, I would immediately, right as I announce his firing or her firing, bring in another person who'd be, I don't know, qualified or a natural genius. So we would actually have qualified, competent, experienced people in these positions where literally our hands are in their lives, Francesca.
I mean, what's so funny about this is that he can't even like pass the buck and like fire the FAA head because he already did that. He can't fire the advisory committee because he already did that. In fact, that might have most directly led to what happened. And I think one thing that's important to know is there's always a grain of truth in all of the lies that the right spins about things like this, right? And the grain of truth is not that DEI caused this, but that under Obama, there was an expansion to try to get more diverse hirings in the FAA, right? Expand it, have more job training and the job pool, right? Like, and Donald Trump, the first administration, continue those programs to have more inclusive, a more inclusive FAA, a more diverse FAA. It was like, nah. Now, did that mean they lowered the standards to be an air traffic controller? Of course not. No.
And also, Francesca, this is important. I'm glad you mentioned this because they've actually done an analysis and an audit of those DEI hires, and nowhere does it show that increasing the pie, bringing in qualified women and people of color, lowered safety standards. It's all BS. It's all bunk. What I would have wanted was at least someone there. At least give me a human being who is somewhat competent, and we didn't even have that in the Trump administration. And I want to say this before we move on because it's an important point. If, God forbid, this would have happened under President Biden's watch, and it didn't happen under Obama's watch, it happened under Trump's watch, what would Republicans have done for the next 4 years if this, with all the facts that we just showed, what we know right now, if this would have happened in the first week and a half of President Biden's administration, Francesca, what would the right wing have done?
I mean, Buttigieg would have been gone. Buttigieg would have been just a little, spritz of mist, like, bye, Buttigieg would have been gone. I mean, Biden, this would have been massive. They would not let this go every single day. And honestly, to honor the people who died unnecessarily and for all of our sakes, we should not let this go. And I'm one of the first people who drew the connection because there was already reporting from hours before this accident happened that the lack of FAA was putting us all at risk and staffing was putting us all at risk. There was reporting being done about that because it was one of the first things that he did when he came into office. And so the writing was on the wall. And so miss me with this like, well, we don't know. We should probably tread lightly. Nah, man.
No.
This is exactly what happens when you try to deregulate literally everything. But of course, lastly, Donald Trump, had a beat. He took a moment from his press conference and he signed another executive order. Was it about like aviation safety and staffing up at the FAA and, making sure that we I don't know, reduce the number of planes that come through the DC airport because apparently congestion is way up and it's way over capacity? No. Instead, he did this.
Second, for your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA Administrator, in this case acting FAA Administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
If it's infuriating, it should be. If you're angry, you have every right to be. This is something that should really make your blood boil. And I'm a person who's very even-keeled, Francesca. But to see that press conference, I know we're wrapping it up, but to see that press conference, especially as we're getting all the news of the fact that there was one person doing two people's jobs, the fact that this never happens, the fact that we have the most incompetent people in office, the fact that we don't have an FAA chief, a TSA chief, and he comes back and triples down on Festivus and blames women and people of color. I have some swear words, but there's kids around, so I won't say anything.
No, it's enraging. I mean, Biden's woke policies, like if you are dumb enough to think that woke caused an air collision, the likes of which we haven't seen in 20 years, I don't even know what to tell you anymore, dog. Like you're gone. You're so unserious. And that's at the highest level here. I mean, it's wild. We have to get, there's more wild stuff.
Well, there's more paint chip energy is what Francesca is trying to say.
There's more lead energy. Although, at this point, I don't know what's in, all the HGH and the roids that he is mainlining, but RFK Jr.
Allegedly mainlining. I'm saving us.
Who may, in fact, be the next Secretary of Health and Human Services, which oversees things like the CDC, Medicaid, Medicare, and children's health programs. He had his confirmation hearing yesterday. And obviously, there wasn't enough, in my opinion, questions about like the amount of roadkill he's eaten or like what happened with that whale that he tied to his car and drove with for hours and hours.
Also the brainworm.
Yeah. Not enough. I feel like not enough questions were directed at the brainworm.
Yeah.
I feel like he should have been like, I can get this. Like that's,
Would it be hilarious if the brainworm has like a monocle and is like brilliant? Like, excuse me, Robert, let me feel this one. I actually know what Medicare is. If you only let me speak, I wouldn't have. You wouldn't have looked like a fool, not knowing what these two agencies are that you are now going to run that are necessary for people to live.
I mean,
Sorry, I had too much fun.
We are truly in a brainworm take the wheel moment. Like, honestly, like that's like our failsafe with this guy, as well as obviously the Senate, who everyone should be calling every single day. But look, this was a precursor to the actual hearing, and you got to play it because it's Caroline Kennedy, who is Bobby's cousin, right? And she has grown up with him her whole life. And she's basically like, she recorded a video of herself, sent it to the Senate and said, please don't confirm this man. Let me just tell you a little bit about him.
I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets because Bobby himself is a predator. I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence. Today, while he may encourage a younger generation to attend AA meetings, Bobby is addicted to attention and power. Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs.
Holy crap, indeed, Roar Bear. That's a fantastic comment. Holy crap.
Grinding up little mice and birds to feed to his hawk, which he just gives off that energy that is like guy with hawk energy. And as a commenter just remarked that he was kind of lit up yesterday and today, by the way, he came back for more today. He was lit up on a number of things. Obviously, he waltzes into this hearing and claims that he is not against vaccines, even though he straight up founded an organization that is anti-vax. Bernie Sanders actually brought up some merch that's designed for infants that says unvaxxed and unbothered and other cute little phrases that lead to measles outbreaks. But here was Senator, I believe Michael Bennet from Colorado, who had kind of the moment of the day yesterday, not letting RFK Jr. off the hook on some of his insane theories, not just on COVID-19, which again, he said cannot impact Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. Okay.
He actually said that, folks, that we have him on tape with that conspiracy theory.
Right. But it's beyond that. Take a look.
Did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of Lyme
I want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes. Did you say that exposure to pesticides causes children to become transgender?
No, I never said that.
Okay, I have the record that I'll give to the chairman, and he can make his judgment about what you said. Did you write in your book, and it's undeniable, that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS? Yes or no?
So it goes on and on.
Well, actually, that was the first time I actually ever heard the African AIDS comment, but then it makes... But then the I know we have this clip, but when Representative Alsobrooks said what she said, it makes sense. It all tracks.
Let's follow it up with that because, okay, so you hear Bennett begins this line of questioning talking about, did you not say that COVID cannot infect Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people? And then he ends, sort of towards the middle, that African AIDS is a totally different kind of AIDS. So that...
Same AIDS, folks. Same AIDS.
Yeah. That racist sort of eugenics, social Darwinism is littered throughout Bobby Kennedy's, his whole approach to medicine. And Senator Angela Alsobrooks really nailed him on one of the things he's claimed.
You said the following, and I quote, "We should not be giving Black people the same vaccine schedule that's given to whites because their immune system is better than ours." Can you please explain what you meant?
There's a series of studies, I think most of them by Poland, that show that to particular antigens that Blacks have a much stronger reaction. There's differences in reaction to different products by different races.
So I have 17 seconds left. Let me just ask you then. So what different vaccine schedule would you say I should have received? What different vaccine schedule should I have received?
I mean, the Poland article suggests that Blacks need fewer antigens.
This is so dangerous.
So you get the same measles vaccine.
Mr. Kennedy, with all due respect, that is so dangerous. Your voice would be a voice that parents would listen to. That is so dangerous. I will be voting against your nomination because your views are dangerous to our state and to our country.
Okay.
Yeah, Nazi science. Eugenics, like you said.
It's straight Nazi science. And the funniest thing about the whack jobs that have sat before the Senate this week and last week is a lot of them are smart enough to shut up. But now we're getting in the just people who are so far up their own ass, which, I mean, RFK Jr. has been for so long, since he was torturing small animals and accosting nannies, that he's like, oh, you want to know my thoughts? I'm sorry, I'm going to do the voice. You want to know my thoughts on this? I'm going to openly tell you that, Black people shouldn't get vaccines because, they've got higher antigens. I'm going to, literally float some straight race science to you right now because he's too dumb to shut up. It's like, buddy, you already said you weren't against vaccines. just say less. Ooh, say less. Because
But
I really didn't want to hear that.
But he's so like you said, up his own ass, right? His slogan is "Make America Healthy Again," which is just so comical. Up is down, down is up. RFK might be our next head of HHS, an anti-vaxxer, a person who's an abuser, a person who promotes this racist anti-black narrative, which even today in 2025, this is what keeps black people from receiving pain medication. This is the type of stereotypes that almost killed Serena Williams, the GOAT. My wife, who's a family health doctor, says that this type of latent discrimination, right? These types of racist undertones that people have. Oh, black people, they're just naturally tougher. They're just naturally bigger. They're just lying when they say they're in pain. They don't need pain medication. This dude is going to be the head of HHS. He's going to be saying this, and he's going to make death great again. And it's even worse, Francesca, because in addition to RFK, because unfortunately I think he has all the votes, it's just going to be a disaster. He has, speaking about geniuses who are the most qualified, I think he's going to get through it. I hope I'm wrong, but this man is not a doctor. He's the least qualified person. But to make it worse, folks, because yes, it is worse. The United States under Donald Trump decided, you know what? We don't need the World Health Organization. Who needs the World Health Organization? Let's just peace out of the World Health Organization. Even though it's going to be a massive consequence to our health, because, the WHO database that we rely upon tells us about changing influenza strains. More Americans could be hospitalized and die from influenza infections today than ever before. Quote, right now, 30,000 elderly people at high risk for influenza complications die every year from the flu. Quote, if we are not making vaccines or our vaccines are not good or effective, then we are going to see those numbers go up. So we're going to lose all that information. We're going to lose this database. We're going to be completely behind. And as this is happening, folks, in 2019, the World Health Organization, 2019, said one of the top 10 global health risks was vaccine hesitancy. That was pre-COVID, pre-RFK. Now we're seeing a dip in vaccinations, especially of our children. We're seeing an increase in, wait for it, measles is coming back. Wait for it, polio, which Mitch McConnell had, which used to kill people. COVID has not gone away. And then to fuel your nightmares, we found this out during our research today, not just measles, not just COVID, not just polio, also, wait for it, Francesca, TB.
Angelica calls it. Yep.
Here we go. Kansas is seeing a surge in tuberculosis, the largest tuberculosis outbreak in U.S. history. But wait for it. Here's some more fuel for the nightmares. Not just TB. Let's throw in a bird flu. Let's throw in some bird flu. Bird flu. There are 67 confirmed cases in the United States, 1 death. More than 300 herds across the U.S. have been affected. We've seen the culling of thousands of birds. The virus, Francesca, has mutated. It is now found, wait for it, not just in birds, cats, raccoons, bears, cows, and scientists are warning of human-to-human transmission. But guess what, folks? You got RFK, not a doctor, has a brainworm, has a very interesting relationship with exotic animals, anti-vaxxer, and promotes eugenics. Do you feel better? Do you feel safer? Grim Reaper is drooling right now.
No, it is absolutely terrifying. I mean, and then, I'm not going to play the clip, but there is another point at which, RFK Jr., who, by the way, if he's in charge and another pandemic breaks out, first of all, Mother Nature is anti-fascist. Let's just be real. Can we just name that? Mother Nature is super like, oh, you got another Trump administration? Here we go. like
10 days, maybe just 10 days.
Yeah, she is ready. She's like, oh, you need another pen. And this is the thing about Donald Trump. Like, so long as nothing ever happens in this country and everything is fine, Donald Trump seems, in theory, like an okay president. So long as there isn't a plane crash or a pandemic, or so long as you don't need to do anything, seems like he's a pretty good president, on paper, but not. And it's like, no, man. In a week, you have all of these, fires that, by the way, you likely started coming at you. And it also just reminds me of I've been reeling at the way he's treated victims of the LA wildfires out here.
Our home state.
He has visited this state. He visited here for, I think, 4 days, and he did not visit the victims of the Eaton fire, Altadena or Pasadena, where the majority are middle class, working class people, and the majority of deaths happened over there. He didn't even visit. Waj, we're talking about a 40-minute car ride. He could not be bothered to come visit. And his answer to the wildfire victims was, I mean, you should just rebuild. Like, you're on your own.
Release the water. He said, release the water. Also, because we live in the United States of amnesia, and deliberately Stephen Miller and MAGA is trying to flood the zone. He also blamed the fires on DEI. And furthermore, today, I don't know if you saw when they asked him, are you going to visit? DCA are going to visit. He said, why should I visit? Should I go in the water and swim? What should I do? That was his response.
Yes. I mean, the crassness, the cruelty with which he speaks, like the disregard for human life. I mean, last week I said that our theme of the show was hope you're rich. Maybe that was even Tuesday. Today it's hope you don't die. It's just, haha, FAFO. Hope it's not me next.
Remember, before we bring on Mehdi, remember you mentioned, he could seem like well, I'm not going to say competent. He could seem like not as catastrophic or the handmaiden of death when he just used to watch TV. Remember that? His executive his executive schedule in his first term, where it was just like in the morning, he used to get up 10 minutes, read something, and then for like 7 hours, it was just empty. And we found out that it's because he was watching Fox. Can he just go back to watching Fox? Just watch Fox, Trump.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm getting a lot of say less vibes. Just shut up. But at that time, Mehdi, it was like Heritage Foundation ghouls hadn't fully rolled out their Project 2025.
That's
so
right.
We weren't also in the same week that we're in the midst of this will they, won't they federal freeze on all funds. So you can't just sit back and watch Fox News because I don't know, planes are falling out of the sky.
That's right.
But anyway, don't worry. His other cabinet picks are super chill and super cool and super normal.
Nothing to worry about, folks.
And joining us to talk about Tulsi Gabbard, who is the pick for Director of National Intelligence, and Kash Patel, the pick for CIA, is none other than the FBI. Oh, sorry, FBI, my bad. None other than Zeteo's founder, Mehdi Hasan.
Hey, how's it going?
Terrible.
Well, I feel much safer knowing that Tulsi Gabbard will be the head of our DNI. So I feel much safer, Mehdi. How about you?
Well, I put out a piece this week pointing out that in 2019, an enemies list, quote unquote, leaked from the Tulsi Gabbard presidential campaign from an online volunteer listing people who they don't like and wanted to go after to block on social media. And yours truly was at the top of that list. So always good to find out you're at the top of an enemies list for someone who's about to control the CIA, the NSA, and the DIA.
I mean, let's talk about Tulsi. Before we go to some of the clips, I mean, what are the biggest? There's a million red flags, but for you, and I know you put out a piece also that everyone should read, things you didn't know about Tulsi or things you should know about Tulsi. What are the biggest red flags for her being in control of, national intelligence like this?
Oh, so many. Where to begin? As I point out in the piece, she is someone who is super hawkish, but has a fake reputation for being super dovish, which many on the left, Francesca, people you and I like, including in the Bernie Sanders campaign, helped her develop and spread. And I think the Bernie Sanders campaign made a mistake having her as a co-chair back in the day. She pushed this image of being a dove when actually she's a hawk. She supported Russia's bombing of Syria. Even today, she said, I hate Al-Qaeda. She's a real war on terror person. She's very George Bush, Dick Cheney-like when it comes to the war on terror. She's a big fan of all of that. She's very close to Narendra Modi, far-right Prime Minister of India. She's very close. She was very close to Bashar al-Assad. She visited him twice in one secret meeting and basically came back and echoed Assad talking points about chemical weapons, about attacks on civilians, etc., etc. She's super close to Israel. She was hanging out with Miriam Adelson and Shmuley Boteach back in the day when even she was pretending to be a leftist. She's like so many other people in this MAGA movement. She's a bit of a grifter, just goes where the power and attention and money is. She was this kind of mainstream Democrat, then leftist Democrat, then centrist Democrat, then Fox host, then Trump person. It's hard to take people that seriously when you're shifting your views on a dime like every few months.
I just want to like drill down on like national intelligence and the cozying up to some of these, dictators, the Trumps of other places like Assad, like Modi, and people who have gone after vis-a-vis, silencing, their any dissidents or any opposition parties, using digital means, but also paying people. Like, how compromised do we know, or do we think Tulsi Gabbard is?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would just add a caveat, which is like, we're all on the left of the political spectrum, and we should recognize that across Washington, D.C., across parties, politicians in America support dictators, right? We see, this is not unique to Tulsi Gabbard. Let's say Tulsi Gabbard disappeared. Tomorrow they pulled her nomination because she's under votes. The next person they nominate for DNI will be a defender of some dictator or another abroad. Unfortunately, that is American politics. In fact, Senator Tom Cotton said this week, said the quiet part out loud. He said, it's not about, we shouldn't support people who are pro-democracy or anti-democracy. We should only look at which leader is pro-America or anti-America, which was quite nice of him to say bluntly what American foreign policy is. He's a bastard, but he's our bastard. So in that sense, she's not that unique. What bothers me is she's completely unqualified. She is out there. Like I say, it's one thing to be like pro-dictator. Nancy Pelosi went and had a meeting with Assad too, which many on the MAGA right are pointing out. But Tulsi went secretly. She went with a weird bunch of Assad supporters. And then she came back and literally echoed kind of Assad Russian talking points. That's what's quite worrying, obviously, if you're director of national intelligence.
And her staffers, the staffers, when she went and had that secret meeting, they had no idea where she was. And also her staffers have said that she used to bring in pro-Russia talking points, RT memos.
Treated like Russia Today, like a credible media source.
And they're like, excuse me, Senator Gabbard, I don't think you should be bringing Russia propaganda into the meetings. But, we see there's a clip here I want to play from today, because we see a recurring trend. Mehdi, you said the flip-flopping, right?
Yep.
For the record, I was always critical of Tulsi for the reason that you mentioned. I wanted to see CNN.
I have a Tulsi I was right fund. You can Venmo me if you $1 is all I ask
right
from the
there.
people.
And I got hit from progressives. I said, as a Muslim, she seems to be very, very pro-war when the bombs are dropping on brown Muslims. But there's a recurring trend here with RFK.
I was told, how dare you call her a Republican? She is now officially a Republican.
So we're all three of us were right. We're just saying, we don't want to be petty, but we'll be a little bit petty. But all these folks, these reeks for Trump, you notice them flip-flopping. RFK flip-flopped on being pro-abortion. Now he's pro-choice. But here's a clip. I want to play this clip.
Before you play the clip,
yes,
just add one extra point, then we'll go to the clip, which is, it's not just that they flip-flop. It's also, when you look at especially Kash Patel, RFK, and Tulsi, the three who are up today, it is that line from Succession. You are just not serious people. That is fundamentally, there are lots of politicians who are pro-dictator, but I can still take them seriously as serious figures. I cannot take RFK, Kash, or Tulsi serious.
Mehdi held up that clip because he wanted to do that Succession quote. And that's okay, because I have done that before on shows as well. Here's the clip.
If President Trump orders you to withhold appropriated funds from the Inspector General, will you refuse that illegal order?
I don't believe for a second President Trump would ask me to do something that would break the law.
Like a violent insurrection.
Well, this is a classic Gabbard moment for those of us who followed her for years. So when she was a Democrat, she still used to obviously attack Trump because she wanted to be president. Remember, she ran for the 2020 presidential nomination, took out Kamala Harris along the way on a debate stage. But I have receipts. I love to have receipts. Go back to April 2017. Trump bombed Syria. By the way, remember, Trump was anti-war. No, Trump bombed the Syrian government. He bombed Syria, bombed Assad. And when he did it, Tulsi attacked him, and she said, quote, he's behaving in an unconstitutional manner. She said he was anti the Constitution. He violated the Constitution, she said. So when she sits in front of Congress today and like a loyal Trumpist says, he would never ask me to do anything illegal. You said he did illegal, unconstitutional stuff in his first term. You said it. So yes, the flip-flopping, the inconsistency. If I go out today and say Donald Trump is Saudi Arabia's bitch, people will say, wow, that's very strong language from Mehdi. That's what his Director of National Intelligence said. Tulsi Gabbard said Donald Trump is Saudi Arabia's bitch. Today she sits in Congress praising Trump, attacking Democrats, flip-flopping on a bunch of issues, right? She didn't just flip-flop on Trump's illegality. There were even the good things she used to believe in, she flip-flopped on.
One of the things that she seems to have not fully flipped on is Democrats were really hammering her on trying to get her to call Edward Snowden, who worked for the NSA, or worked for a contractor that worked with the NSA, that leaked the fact that we're all being spied on, metadata, massive warrantless collection of our information. I think many of us agree that we should all know about this, that the leak was ultimately good. But instead of hammering her on the thing you just mentioned, Mehdi, and you tweeted something like this, about the Islamophobia, or about saying, hey, you were against the unconstitutional bombing of Syria, and now you're saying he'd never do anything unconstitutional. How does that square? But here she was answering the question about Edward Snowden.
Gabbard, a simple yes or no question. Do you still think Edward Snowden is brave?
Mr. Vice Chairman, Edward Snowden broke the law. I do not agree with or support with all of the information and intelligence that he released, nor the way in which he did it. There would have been opportunities for him to come to you on this committee or seek out the IG to release that information. The fact is, he also, even as he broke the law, released information that exposed egregious, illegal, and unconstitutional programs that are happening within our government that led to serious reforms that Congress undertook.
Yeah, that wasn't even the worst of it. I think Michael Bennet went even further and insisted she called him a traitor.
Yes.
And yeah, you got Democrats slamming her on the one good thing she did, which was stand up for Edward Snowden against the national security establishment. But today, I mean, you're more generous than I am, Francesca. I actually think she did throw him under the bus there in that answer. She said that he broke the law and I didn't have the full information and he could have come to you. That's not true, actually. And there's no time to discuss it now. But
right.
Go and look at the Edward Snowden case. Actually, the paths that were allegedly open to him were not open to him, and they're not open to a lot of whistleblowers from the NSA and the security world. So it was sad to see that. She wants power, so she's willing to switch on surveillance. She's willing to switch on Snowden. But Democrats are so embarrassing when they try and attack Republicans from the right. It is the most annoying thing that Democrats do is, I've got a right wing in front of me. Let me come at them from the further right. No, you could have
get to the center this way.
They could have made a big thing about how she has helped demonize Muslim immigrants in this country.
Right.
She co-signed onto a Republican bill back in the day, which said that Christian and Yazidi and other minorities from the Middle East should be allowed into America, not Muslims. Right? They should be prioritized by religion. That kind of stuff. They could have called her out for it, but they didn't.
But I even think the Snowden. But I know we have to move on to Patel. But like the Snowden thing is so revelatory that the Democrats left that on the table because it is broadly supported even by xenophobes that we have some kind of privacy in this country, right? That our data shouldn't just be like randomly collected. Right. It's wildly popular to say that and to ask her, how would you treat a future whistleblower who is seeing something that was being done to the compromising Americans' security, or data or privacy? What would you say to that? Would there be
avenues? They gave her brownie points. They actually made her more popular with the mainstream without realizing it.
Eric Holder, who was Obama's attorney general, if memory serves me correctly, did come out later and said he supported a commutation, if not a pardon, for Edward Snowden. So this idea that everyone must insist he's a traitor is absolutely said. I don't agree with everything Edward Snowden says, but what he did at the root was absolutely valuable and essential for the United States of America. And by the way, you see Warner going there. Is he brave? Well, whether you agree with him or not, he's clearly brave. He literally gave up his entire life, went up against the strongest government in the world, and is now hiding out in Putin's Russia, of all places. So, yeah, I think he is brave, regardless of whether you agree with him or not.
Speaking of good things coming through, so do bad things. We talked about RFK Jr., we talked about Tulsi Gabbard, and here to make you feel less safe, we have Kash Patel. And as I say, as the son of Pakistani immigrants, as the ambassador of all brown people, brown kids don't let brown kids grow up to be Kash Patel, a completely unqualified individual who has no law enforcement experience, who will most likely get the votes to be the head of our FBI, who went on Steve Bannon's show, folks, and openly said that he will use that perch as the head of the FBI to go after Donald Trump's critics, which include, first and foremost, media critics. Mehdi might be on that list. And political critics. He is a person who has platformed conspiracy theories, lies, and actually normalized some of the worst hate mongers. And maybe, just maybe, folks, if you're the head of the FBI, maybe you should be against, a violent insurrection. Maybe you shouldn't, be cozy with violent insurrectionists. And I want to play you 2 clips from Kash Patel's hearing today. Here's the first clip. Simple question he couldn't answer.
Can you say the words, Joe Biden won the 2020 election?
Joe Biden was the president of the United States.
You understand this? There's a difference. I can say the words, Donald Trump won. I don't like to say it, but I must say it.
And speaking about January 6th insurrectionists, remember that choir? Of course you do.
Here's what you told Steve Bannon on his podcast. So what we thought would be cool is if we captured that audio and then, of course, had the greatest president, President Donald J. Trump, recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Then we went to a studio and recorded it, mastered it, digitized it, and put it out as a song now releasing exclusively on the War Room. We. If you had nothing to do with it, Mr. Patel, why did you tell Steve Bannon and all his listeners that you did?
That's why it says we, as you highlighted.
Yeah, and you're part of the we, right? When you say we, that includes you, doesn't it, Mr. Patel?
Not in every instance.
Well, that's new. So when you said we, you didn't really mean you. Is that your testimony?
Not unless you have a new definition for the word we.
Oh, okay. I always thought we included the person who pronounced the word.
This is not an episode of Veep. This is 2025 America, Mehdi.
First of all, my head hurts. That's the third time I watched that clip today, and my head hurts. I'm amazed that Adam Schiff was able to keep a straight face during that. I would have just
barely did. He was like, okay.
I mean, Adam Schiff's like, you know, torturing the English language. Forget torturing people in Guantanamo Bay. Bill Clinton famously said, and you know, it depends what is means, right? This is now what we means. Anyone who's watched the clip of Kash Patel and Adam Schiff read it out knows he was talking about we, me and you, Steve Bannon, us, MAGA. We got together and got these insurrectionists to sing a song and get it to #1 in the Billboard charts or whatever it was. He bragged about it going to #1. He bragged about it on the War Room being his production. And now, under oath, he just lies. I find the irony of Kash Patel, of all people, lying under oath amazing, because he's going to be directed to the FBI. It is illegal in this country. It is a criminal offense to lie to the FBI, which is ironic now because they will have a director of the FBI who in 2022 pled the fifth when he was called in during the hearings over over January 6th. And now today, he lied on multiple occasions. He lied about his role in the January 6th choir, which Trump was involved in. He also lied about...
You know, there was a choir. You know, they really had everything. They had merch. They have a choir.
He lied about QAnon.
Petting zoo.
He lied about QAnon. This is a guy who's pushed QAnon conspiracy theories. In fact, he signed the QAnon motto on his books, right? Where we go one, we go all. He signed that in his books. Today, he claimed he had nothing to do with QAnon. He doesn't know anything about QAnon. He was asked about a podcast. I don't know if you saw that clip where he was asked about a podcast.
I have it for you, but please, this is beautiful. Give me the assist. Set it up. Talk about Stu Peters.
Stu Peters is a far-right, crazy kook conspiracy theorist, kind of COVID denier, has, you know, platformed Nazis, says outrageously anti-Semitic, crazy things. Kash Patel's been on his show many, many times. When he was asked about it today, let's see what he said.
This is thanks to Ron Filipkowski. He did the supercut. I had to say that. So shout out to Ron Filipkowski.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stu. Always love coming on your show.
Kash Patel, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stu. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stu. Appreciate it. See you soon.
I got to go, Kash. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks,
up against a hard break here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Stu.
Kash Patel, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Stu. Appreciate it. You've got a great show.
Thank you.
So that was him on the show. What did he say today?
Stu Peters. Does that name ring a bell?
I'm sorry. What?
Are you familiar with Mr. Stu Peters?
Not off the top of my head.
He made 8 separate appearances on his podcast. He promoted outrageous conspiracy theories and worked with a prominent neo-Nazi.
Gotta love evidence.
I mean, I've never seen people lie as shamelessly, as brazenly, as repeatedly, as demonstrably as the Trump people. It's amazing to be like, he didn't just say, I do not recall, which is the standard, you know, lie you say in front of Congress. He went, who? Not off the top of my head. We just saw him 8 times saying, love being on your show, Stu. It's amazing. You're under oath and they just don't care. And when it really bothers me when like normies, people who don't follow the news like us 3 freaks, when normies say to me, politicians, they all lie, Mehdi. Trump lies, they all lie. No, nobody lies like the Trump people. I have followed politics in 2 countries for 25 years. There has never been a group of people who lie like Trump and Kash Patel. And even today,
the whataboutism also with like, you know, everyone takes bribes. It's like, okay, but we're talking on a totally different level. I just want to ask you, what does it mean if Patel is confirmed and Gabbard is confirmed and you've got the head of the FBI? I mean, this guy going on these white nationalist podcasts, Steve Bannon's War Room. Like, I've been very afraid, I think, even for an outlet like Zeteo. And given the tech oligarch, high five, all left, if any ounce, because there's very small amounts of leftist media and everyone should be supporting Zeteo, please, whatever you can. There's such a few of us, and all that is going to be surveilled, monitored, demonetized. Like we are in for a ride, to say nothing of the people on the streets and social movements.
Oh, 100%. I think a couple of things to answer your question. What does it mean? Number one, it means that these people are the most hypocritical people in the history of mankind. When they go on and on about meritocracy, as you both pointed out at the start of the show, and you have Pete Hegseth, the most unqualified man in our lifetime to be defense secretary, Tulsi Gabbard, the most unqualified person to be director of national intelligence, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the most unqualified person to be health secretary, and now Kash Patel, who, hold my beer, beats all of them. All three of the people I just mentioned are more qualified to hold those roles, God help us, than he is to be director of the FBI. This guy was a public defender who became a bag carrier for Devin Nunes in Congress, helped push all the Trump paranoia nonsense, lies about Russia, etc. Then gets promoted at the very end of the Trump administration to chief of staff for the acting defense secretary. Trump tries to make him deputy head of the CIA. CIA chief says, I'm going to resign. Completely out of his depth, writes children's books for the last few years praising Trump, children's books about Trump.
Yes,
and
he's
now,
such a fanboy.
Is suddenly director of the FBI. That is astonishing, right? And this is a guy who's going to make Hoover look like a card-carrying member of the ACLU.
Yes,
Why mentioned this quote earlier? He said, I'm going to come after people. He said this on the Bannon show. I'm going to come after the media criminally or civilly, right? This is the guy I said to a friend of mine recently, when you watch Hollywood movies, and Waj knows I love to watch a lot of action movies, a lot of action movies, Liam Neeson type movies, you suddenly have a twist where the head of the FBI or the head of CIA is the bad guy. There's the reveal, right? He's the guy who's been using the FBI to do his own personal dirty work. That is Kash Patel. You think Kash Patel's the guy who's going to be like, let's check with the lawyers whether we can tap that phone. Hey, guys, let's check with the lawyers whether we can send a bunch of agents around to someone's house. That's not who he is, right? These guys, everything they accused Biden of, weaponizing government, targeting your enemies, it was all projection. It's all what they plan to do. Every accusation is a confession. So 100%. We should be worried about a loyalist, a bag carrier for Trump, a man who can't even say Joe Biden won the last election, a man who's openly threatened the media, a man who clearly lying under oath. He's going to be in charge of the nation's most important, most powerful law enforcement agency. Yeah, good luck to all of us. We need the support of the public to get through this.
But other than that, what do you really like about him? No, don't answer that question. Don't answer that question. Speaking about shameless, we're going to be talking about the media. But before we do, Mehdi, shamelessly promote yourself, sir.
I mean, what can I say? Zeteo, it's a small little media outfit that we launched nearly a year ago. We're coming up to our first anniversary. We appreciate all the support from the folks on YouTube who are watching right now. We appreciate you both, Waj and Francesca, for your vote of confidence in us coming on board to do this twice a week show. America Unhinged, as you pointed out, truly unhinged tonight. And one thing I said to both of you when I talked to you about doing the show is we really need somewhere in the evenings to cover all the crazy shit happening. And I think today's a day that justifies this show more than any other day.
The worst day.
Thank you for creating Zeteo. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you. I think it was Tim in the private chat. I found out. Shout out Chris. Chris just said, Mehdi, listen to this. He just upgraded to an annual subscription to Zeteo because of this show. So Francesca and I will accept some donations. Mehdi, you can give us some halal kebabs. But we're gonna say bye to you for now.
Thank you guys. See you soon.
Jim Acosta, tell us what happened, Francesca, with former CNN host.
A former CNN host, Jim Acosta. This is quite chilling. I found it very chilling because if you guys remember, Jim Acosta was sort of a stalwart of the first Trump administration and sort of landed him, a primetime role, news anchor role on CNN in the first place. He was constantly in the press room. No, he wasn't a TikTok influencer and or blogger, as Caroline Leavitt now wants to allow in. He was actually doing his job, and he was stepping to Trump, and he was one of the few. The media they were feeling themselves in the first administration. Let's be real. And now they're not feeling themselves. They're feeling Trump. And so this week, Jim Acosta found out that his time slot was being moved to midnight. And look.
Because that's when all the kids watch, midnight. That's when you get all the people who are high on meth and have passed out on their couch. The huge demographic of America, right?
It was a clear attempt to push him out. And instead of, I mean, honestly, like our last guest, Mehdi Hasan, and the founder of this show, instead of accepting being, you know, sort of sidelined, he was like, nah, peace. And he had this to say on his way out.
I just wanted to end today's show by thanking all of the wonderful people who work behind the scenes at this network. You may have seen some reports about me and the show. And after giving all of this some careful consideration and weighing an alternative time slot CNN offered me, I've decided to move on. I am grateful to CNN for the nearly 18 years I've spent here doing the news. People often ask me if the highlight of my career at CNN was at the White House covering Donald Trump. Actually, no. That moment came here when I covered former President Barack Obama's trip to Cuba in 2016 and had the chance to question the dictator there, Raul Castro, about the island's political prisoners. As the son of a Cuban refugee, I took home this lesson. It is never a good time to bow down to a tyrant. I've always believed it's the job of the press to hold power to account. I've always tried to do that here at CNN, and I plan on doing all of that in the future. One final message. Don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to the fear. Hold on to the truth and to hope. Even if you have to get out your phone, record that message. I will not give in to the lies. I will not give in to the fear. Post it on your social media so people can hear from you too.
I mean, people are going to be looking at Jim Acosta's social media. It sounds like he's doing cameos, any little pep talk cameos pretty soon. But the reason I want to highlight...
sorry, go ahead, Francesca.
Oh, just really quickly, I wanted to highlight it because it really is. I mean, if they're trying to sideline Jim Acosta, a guy who, you saw it there, he's calling Raul Castro a dictator. This is no crazy leftist. This is no, you know, anti-establishment weirdo. And he was like, he's the bread and butter of CNN for a long time there in the first Trump administration. People tuned in to watch him step to Trump. And if CNN's like, nah, we want to bend the knee even farther down, it really is a terrifying time for the rest of us in media.
Yeah, no, and not just for the rest of us in media, Donald Trump, who's totally not fickle and has a lot of important things to do. Oh, wait, he found a time to attack Acosta. Really good news. Jim Acosta, one of the worst, most dishonest reporters in journalistic history, major sleazebag, has been relegated by CNN fake news to midnight hour Death Valley because of extraordinarily bad ratings, no talent. Word is that he wants to quit, and that would be even better. Jim is a major loser who will fail no matter where he ends up. Good luck, Jim. That's an exact from social post. I want to say this before we get to some good news. Guess who CNN still has? Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings, the man who tried to sane wash Elon Musk's Nazi salute, folks. It was a Nazi salute. He gave it from the heart. Last show we had, I think, Catherine Rampell. She called him out on it, asked him to do it live on air. He refused to do it. Scott Jennings, who is paid by CNN very well, very handsomely, to be a troll. He is the Rick Santorum.
You think he gets paid really well?
Lords. He gets paid very well. I used to debate him. Terrifying. I was on CNN. He is doing his job, folks. CNN pays him, to use a wrestling term, to be a heel. And he sits there every day and he smiles on his face. And as he said, apparently off the record, I'm having a lot of fun to throw sand in the gears, to whitewash and sane wash Trump, to promote and launder MAGA talking points. But Jim Acosta, apparently a bridge too far for CNN. But here's some good news, folks, because I know we give you a lot today. A plane crash, sane washing, attack on DEI, people of color, the worst people on earth who will make our security less safe, becoming leaders. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Kash Patel, and brown kids. Never let brown kids grow up to be Kash Patel. Some good news, all right?
You said this also about Nikki Haley, though. You said this about...
Brown girls, don't let brown girls grow up to be Nikki Haley. All right? I didn't make the rules. I'm just the ambassador of all brown people. I'm telling you, it was passed down from generation to generation. The scholars told us. Some good news in Iowa. Hi. Candidate Mike Zimmer, a Democrat, an educator, Francesca, appeared to have won the seat for Democrats in a heavily Republican part of eastern Iowa that Trump carried by 22 points. It was a plus 22 red seat. Zimmer ran on a message of support for public schools in his district, which runs along the Mississippi River and includes the city of Clinton. Iowa Republicans, in the meantime, have used their power in recent years to pass laws on abortion, immigration, transgender issues, and to attack DEI.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, look, I think when you actually lead with messaging like education, right? When healthcare, things that people really care about, it works, and you have bold plans and proposals, it works. And look, we need next week, let's see some fire from Democrats. I think we all want to see it. We need to see fire from Democrats, but also one another. It's on us to take the reins there. I know their protest plan for next week. I also know that people are doing mass calls to their congresspeople. Those calls need to keep on coming. There are many, many different offices that your representative has throughout your state. So, you know, call them there. But that has been America Unhinged. Probably the worst day of news we've covered thus far. And that's saying a lot. I don't know.
It's only day 10, but we will be here for the next 90 days. And as we're here, please, everyone, like this video. If you're just joining, this is how YouTube works. If you like it, if you subscribe, if you share, if you go to that button, it seems like a circle with a ... You press on it, you'll see a $ and a heart. That's how you donate. So the folks who are giving us donations,
yes,
it goes a long way. We tried to highlight them. This is grassroots. It's
Thank
independent.
you, Aaron. Thank you, Teresa Kender.
$2, $3, $5, whatever you have, it goes a long way. Click that bell so you'll get notified. And Francesca, my lovely, brilliant co-host, also hosts like 17 other shows and does amazing things. Francesca, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm at youtube.com/FrannyFio, FRANIFIO, streaming Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's my show, The Bituation Room. Also, if you're in the Pasadena area, I'm doing a live stand-up comedy show I'm calling New World Disorder with a bunch of comics. We're doing sort of political comedy, if you will, if that term even means anything anymore, since everything is. And that's going to be on Wednesday, February 19th. You can get tickets at francescafiorentini.com.
And you can find me at the Left Hook Substack. There are no paywalls. Everything is free. But if you can give a little bit of donation, it'd go a long way. And I also host Democracy-ish with Danielle Moody every Monday and Friday, live, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And America Unhinged will be back Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, live. Like, subscribe, click that bell so you get notified.
And until then, America, keep your screws tight. We'll see you next time.